She was amazed at how bright and glimmering all the silver was around her. The body of Bigg Lizz was holding Bigg Lizz's head, glowing red eyes. In the other hand was holding the tobacco knife. Welcome to Friday Night Ghost Frights from Haunted Road Media. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. Explore with us. Buried treasure. It's the stuff of adventure and legends. But what if it really exists? And what if it's really haunted? In my book, Ghosts of Maryland, I cover a number of places like this. Tonight we're going to look at what treasure has ghost stories. There's the story of Bigg Lizz, a woman who was so large that they actually spelled her name with double letters, 2 G's and 2 Z's, Bigg Lizz. Well, she was a slave for a wealthy plantation owner, but she also served as a Union spy during the Civil War. And when the plantation owner found out about this, he had a plan devised to deal with her. Now, of course, the Union troops were winning the war, and he wanted to make sure that his stash of wealth was securely hidden, just in case, you never know, some troops might come by and decide to, profiteer and take some of that wealth. So one night, loaded up a chest of treasure onto a wagon, and he and Bigg Lizz went out into the Greenbrier swamp. Well, he handed Bigg Lizz a shovel, dug a huge hole out there in the swamp, so deep that it was actually up over her head. Remember, she was a big woman. She was Bigg Lizz. Well, he had her lower the chest into the hole, and when she started filling the hole back up, he was standing over her in the wagon and took a large tobacco knife and sliced off her head. Her head went flying, bounced off of a tree, and rolled along the ground. Her body slumped over the chest, and he continued to fill the hole in, leaving her body slumped over the chest. Well, later that night when he was in bed, he realized that he had forgotten to do something about the head, that it was still out there in the swamp. Well, it was too dark at that point. He knew he wouldn't be able to find it without any sort of significant light, so he was going to do something about it in the morning. But a short while later, he heard some scratching emanating from the corner of his room. He also noticed that there was a very, very icy chill in the room as well. So he got up, went to the window to close it, and that's when he noticed the big body standing in the corner without a head. In one hand, the body of Bigg Lizz was holding Bigg Lizz's head, glowing red eyes. In the other hand was holding the tobacco knife. Well, the wealthy plantation owner wasn't going to confront Bigg Lizz head on, and he jumped out the window to his death. It is said that Bigg Lizz haunts Greenbrier Swamp to this day, protecting the treasure that remains hidden. The story has attracted many treasure seekers looking for it. Small copper and gold mines have opened and closed throughout Maryland over the years, but there has only been one reported silver mine, and that was near Silver Run. Well, there was a silversmith in that area, this is 1780, which his silverwares were impeccable quality, very, very good silver, and people from all around would come buy his wares and always remarked at how high of a quality they had. Of course, he had a secret that he wouldn't divulge, only to one person that he ever did, and that was his daughter. Well, one day after she kept asking and asking and asking about where in the world all of this great silver was coming from, he reluctantly gave in. He blindfolded her and he led her out into the woods, actually into a cave where, after unblindfolding her, she was amazed at how bright and glimmering all the silver was around her within this cave. Well, he had formed a friendship with the local Native Americans, and they formed a pact that he could use this cave and mine the silver, but he could never reveal the secret of where it was, except for within his family. And if he did reveal the secret, then a curse would be placed upon him and his family that only the sacrifice of 3 could break. Well, he blindfolded his daughter back up, made her promise that she could never reveal the secret, led her out of the cave. However, his daughter left a trail of twigs behind her. And the next day, she led a friend out into the cave to take a look at the silver. Well, that night, the silversmith and his daughter were dragged out of their beds, never to be seen again. When people wondered about the strange disappearance of the miner and his daughter, they began asking around. and the friend led the townspeople down the trail to where the cave was supposed to be, but the cave had vanished. Well, nobody knows whatever really happened to them, and nobody knows what happened to the riches within the cave. But they say that at times around that area, around Rattlesnake Hill, that sometimes a miner with a lantern can be seen, occasionally, with a ghostly girl, still waiting for the sacrifice of 3 to break the curse. Then there's the story of British Major General Edward Braddock, who during the French and Indian War was marching through Maryland north into the Pennsylvania area to do battle. And along the way, it was very inhospitable. There were wild animals, insect swarms, there were Indian ambushes. So along the way, the gold that he was carrying, he had buried in different locations along the path, just to protect it until that it wouldn't get lost. And we would retrieve it later after the battle. Well, he ended up dying in that battle. General George Washington actually carried his body away so it wouldn't be desecrated. And so, therefore, became the legend of Braddock's gold and where it was hidden along the trail through the Allegheny Mountains. Many people say that in order to find the gold and his spirit, which haunts those locations, one must just follow the trail from marker to marker until maybe, possibly, you find the gold or General Braddock. Well, not all treasures are money and gold. Other things can be perceived as treasure as well. And this goes for a peddler who was found in 1783 near a grist mill in Rock Run. He was found without his head. Slumped over on the ground, a miller happened across him, from the grist mill, looked around for his head, grisly sight that he saw. Couldn't find the head. A quick burial was made there by the roadside. And from then on, a ghostly apparition of a headless peddler was seen in that area, poking at the ground with a stick. Nobody really could figure out why this headless peddler was poking at the ground with a stick. But there he was, for many, many years. 80 years later, a farmer was digging a drainage ditch and happened across a human skull. But dug a little more looking for the body, couldn't find the body. Then he deduced, well, I have a skull. I know the story of the headless peddler. Everybody sees his ghost. So he went to the gravesite and reunited the head with the body. And from then after, the apparition of the headless ghost wasn't ever seen again. The headless peddler was no more. People have now deduced that the poking of the stick on the ground was the peddler trying to let everybody know where his head was within the ground. The treasure that he wanted unburied. And yet there's still another type of treasure to consider. In 1808, Leonard Harbaugh was credited with building the Jug Bridge, spanning the Monocacy River near Frederick, Maryland. It became part of the National Road. Well, near that bridge, he constructed a large demijohn, or a large jug-shaped object, that stood sentinel there by the bridge for many, many years. Well, in 1942, 134 years after the bridge had originally been built, it partially collapsed into the river and a new bridge was built nearby. The demijohn, however, was moved to a small historic site, a small patch of land there in Frederick as you're coming up off the highway. And it has been said that Harbaugh had hidden within the jug an actual bottle of whiskey. It's also said that many soldiers from the Civil War, when they passed on the road, had also hidden whiskey in and around the demijohn. Some say that they have seen those Civil War soldiers around the Jug Monument searching for their bottles of whiskey and perhaps even looking for Harbaughs. There are plenty more interesting tales around Maryland of possible treasures or hidden caches and ghosts that are haunting those areas. These were just 5. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Leave some comments below and click that little bell notification button so that you're notified of new upcoming videos. I'm Mike Ricksecker. Until next Friday night.